Oh.
Welcome back to the Loadout, not that you're left. I'm still Jared Wynn, your loyal host, joined now by Bianca Danielle, Keith Mitchell, and Stephen Broken Watcher Main, our League of Legends experts here to break down the previous LCS weekend of just great fun and diverse action. How are you all doing, Bianca?
I'm all?
You speak for everyone, actually.
Bianca,
Oh.
how are we doing?
How are we all doing?
We've told you before the show how we were doing.
I think you know how we're doing anyway.
On behalf
be able
of
to give a
Keith and
status
Steven,
report.
I would like to say that we're all doing wonderfully this evening and cannot wait to talk about esports.
Excellent. That's good. We're going to cut it right there.
The status report on the children.
Bianca has spoken for
you.
you, and that's going to be the way it is from now on. Bianca speaks for you.
Bitches.
I'll just send you a text message before the show.
She is your translator. So some news broke, some breaking news. We discussed it briefly with Richard Lewis. Team Solo Mid, you may have heard about them.
Would you say we received a brief announcement?
or just a brief, actually, a news brief, but actually also work.
That's better.
You could have done your own joke better.
Keith McBrief?
Yeah.
Does Keith want to tell us about it?
Got it. Yeah, Keith McBrief. That's right. Yeah. So Keith McBrief coming on to TSM as a part of their team to scrimmage with them. Going to split scrims, theoretically, with Wild Turtle this week to help Wild Turtle improve his play, because I feel validated here, actually, because I've gone on twice on this show and said that Wild Turtle, he's kind of bad these days. He's a bottom 5 in North America ADC. I've said it twice now, and here we have TSM, after hearing my proclamation, deciding to make a move because I said it.
And believing, you've always believed in Dyrone. And,
and look what happened.
TSM has not replaced.
They gave Dyrus some more feed and some more farm, and
Dyrus gave TSM less feed.
Doko gave Dyrus the threat, basically saying,
he said,
we will replace you, and now they're doing the same for Wild Turtle, so you never know.
Actually, I think that the thing with Wild Turtle is even a little bit harsher. They just told Dyrus, hey, play better. They're telling Wild Turtle, hey, we're bringing a replacement on in case you don't play better.
Well, see, you said, actually, just before the show, we were discussing it, you said that you didn't think that Keith McBrief Latoucan is going to play a single game.
He will not, no.
But it's ironic because the way that Wild Turtle actually got into his position was because he stepped in for Chaos, because Chaos was being a guy. He was doing, I think he got drunk. They were at MLG Dallas. I was actually there at that MLG Dallas. And my friend was very much trying to find an autograph from Chaos, and he was nowhere to be found the entire weekend. And it came out later on the Chase for the Cup or whatever it was that time that he was out drinking and showed up late and didn't go to practice. So then Wild Turtle stepped in.
So once we learn about Wild Turtle's massive cocaine habits, McBrief will step onto the scene.
I can believe it. Yeah.
So Jared, what makes you think he is a threat instead of an actual replacement?
Well, it's a different situation here. We don't have someone who's just not taking the game seriously. I think Wild Turtle plays a lot of League and is very dedicated to the game. That's not really in question. The question is his ability to play at a high level now. His mechanics may still be okay, but he has forever been the over-aggressive warrior. That has never ceased to be the case. I think that way of doing things has kind of worn out its welcome, especially because the mechanics are no longer kind of holding him up to where those mistakes don't cost the team. I just don't see him.
It's interesting because we've seen a lot of a resurgence in YOLO play recently in the league.
Yeah, if it's good enough for China, isn't it?
It's not even China. It's some of the greatest players that we give so much credit to. Huni comes to mind. Someone who was super extra insane YOLO this week was Gamsu, who went Infinity Edge, Jarvan top. If that's not YOLO, I don't know what it is. So why is Wild Turtle's YOLO not cool?
Because he doesn't succeed. That's the problem. He gets cut out. I saw a great comment that said Wild Turtle is fine if he just plays better in team fights, doesn't get cut out all the time. He'll be great. Well, no shit. If he
does better in lane.
Yes, if he doesn't get cut out and out of position all the time, he'll be a great ADC. That's pretty much one of the fundamental parts of playing the AD carry role in League of Legends.
So who is more likely to see a game this season? Stixie or Keith McBrief?
Stixie, because Doublelift could get an infection or something like that, in which case Stixie would play. Keith is not playing.
You think his pinky's going to get infected?
Because I said that if there was a chance for Doublelift to sit a game and Stixie to play, it would be some throwaway game against TDK. And this week we had CLG playing TDK, and Doublelift had 14 stitches in his pinky, and he still played.
I told you.
So in my mind, there's like zero chance that
I told you. I told you that the Doublelift was going to play every single game this split. If they were at top 3 in the standings team, they were never going to give a single one away. Even with him having like a pinky ripped open.
It turns out that they freaking needed him too. I don't even know what to talk about that game, man.
That Ash pentakill.
As a CLG fan, how do you feel about the fact that you are the closest that TDK has gotten to a victory?
You know what? I feel like we're number 1, baby. That's all that matters.
CLG is indeed number 1. Let's actually talk about this seriously for a second. CLG, because they came into the season as a capital P team, a potential team. Oh, Poe out there, he's got such great potential. He could be a potential playmaker for the team. They could take some emphasis off of Doublelift.
Potential playmaker.
Zion Spartan could like do some good work on the top lane. Like this could potentially be a good team. And now we have them at the number 1 spot in the LCS. It kind of reminds me of last split when they ended up crashing out in the playoffs, actually. But hey, let's talk about the good stuff now. They're number 1 in the split. They're number 1 right now. What has worked for them so far, Keith, that has gotten them?
The fact that they've divided their threats up in lane. I feel like Pobelter has been running clinics on mid lane with the help of Xmithy, and I feel like the top lane, I mean, all the lanes are threats. Like we talked about, like how we felt like you can't just ban Doublelift anymore because now that he's taken a slightly more supportive approach and he's not demanding the jungler's full attention. Like, what do you ban? What do you play against? Here we have powerhouses in pretty much every, like it reminds me of TSM last season rather, where they were just had really good players on every single position. So it was, okay, well, we have to dedicate all our bans to Dyrus to stop him. And then once we do, once we do, here's the bottom lane and the mid lane and the jungle, and we still lose. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think CLG definitely has like stepped up their game, and I think we've seen like really good playmaking play calling from them this split, which is like been the key so far. Because like previously we knew that like Link was supposed to be their primary shot caller and like maybe Aframo on the side, but then Doublelift has come out and said that Zion Spartan now is their primary like late game team shot caller, and like Aframo has been doing his part. And
it's a long title. Primary late game team shot caller.
Yep. I mean, I do like the idea of dedicating different people to different parts in the game. Like, because it's true that like once Zion hits his power spike, he's probably better suited to call for the team as opposed to, let Aframo deal with these late game team fights while he's simultaneously trying to ward and make sure that the objectives are secured and that, he can position in team fights as like a tanky support. Like, it's nice to see that they're smart.
Yeah, if it works, then go with it.
And also, it's like teleport is like such a main component of games nowadays, and it plays such an important role. And so, I've been playing top lane actually quite a lot recently. We've been doing some rank 5s, and it's like amazing how even though I'm not the primary shot caller on our rank 5s team, it's like I have to be aware of what I'm going to be doing and what the other team is going to be doing, because a lot of times like the top laner is like off by themselves, but like they still are calling for the rest of the team because they have to say like, hey, I have this, I'm going to TP to this ward, so you guys need to position in this spot. So it's like, even though the top laner is on the entire opposite side of the map, they sort of have to like macro manage where their team is, because it's like, hey, if I'm going to teleport in, like you guys need to be in this position. So it's like so important that the top laner like communicates that information to the rest of the team. And it's like put the top lane in this like extra shot calling role. Like whether you want to shot call or not as a top laner, like there's certain things that you have to communicate to your team, because teleport is such an important summoner spell and like so pivotal like to winning games right now.
Plus Hecarim's in the meta, and that means teleport's broken.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And home guard. Just the combination of
Hecarim, home guard, teleport.
No. Teleport's always been important, but with the tank meta and the importance of like increased importance of top lane in general, like we see like teleport holding a lot more weight than it would otherwise, because it used to be like, the Maokai's coming in, I guess we'll have to move slightly away from him so that we can continue to focus the back line. And now it's like, well, can't fight. Hecarim's going to, pentakill us. So
yeah, for me, I think it's just Pobelter really has been the main difference. I saw him as a, he's been that potential player before on previous teams. Now here he is with CLG. It's his last big chance, really, and it's worked out spectacularly for him. I think maybe his past experience has actually helped him to become a better player here and really embrace what it's like to be on a team full of great players instead of being expected to kind of carry the team as he was previously.
I just feel like Pobelter really opens up the map for CLG and allowed Xmithy to come in and help lanes other than bot, because they were really bot-centric before.
Yeah, they camped in bot like it was solo queue sometimes, you know, which was a bad thing.
But now they can really capitalize on all of their better players.
Well, like if we look at the composition that they played in their last game this week against Cloud9, they had Kog'Maw, AP, and then they had Ashe, who are like two extremely non-mobile champions. Neither of them have dash. They don't have any ways to even like speed themselves up or anything like that.
But Ashe can slow.
Yeah, and I mean Kog'Maw can too, right? But like we saw the team fights ending up playing out in like the very similar way every time. It was like Fizz jumped on the back line and killed either Pobelter or Double Lift, and then the other one carried the rest of the fight. So it was like you can kill one of them, and they're both immobile, and both of them are big, juicy targets. And like in each of the team fights, one of them got obliterated almost instantly, but the other one was able to like clean up the pieces. Like that's very much how CLG is right now. It's like you can shut down one person, but like there's other people who are available to clean up the pieces, and that's something that CLG just hasn't ever had before.
It's the magic of having multiple carries.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
takes you a long
I definitely
way.
couldn't see that on old CLG. With
Who would
Link.
have thought a team with good players would be good?
Well, it's funny because Link played the AP Kog'Maw against Team Curse, like, what? Maybe that was not even last split. Maybe that was the split before.
Split before, I think.
Yeah. And, like, got dumpstered on. And then now we see Pobelter carrying CLG to victory on AP Kog'Maw.
Yeah, so let's get back to TSM now. We talked about CLG, TSM right behind them.
And they're playing next week.
Yeah, they are playing a big CLG TSM matchup. It's always a big one when it comes to it. It's almost the exact same I think we had at last split. It was, I think, same records perhaps, or very close to it. 7-1 and 6-2. I think it was almost like that last split. Close enough to it. Anyway, they're definitely 1-2 coming into it. So Wild Turtle, you know, we joked before about how I talked about he was bottom 5 ADC now in North America, and now he's actually getting the treatment.
I don't think you joked about it. I think you were
I
serious.
was quite serious actually. Yeah, I was quite serious. I mean, I joked today that I had previously mentioned that. You know, it was a thing I already said, and now he's getting the treatment, if you will, from Reggie. He's getting the treatment. You know, we're gonna stick your head in a toilet bowl. We're gonna just give you a swirly. You know.
Keith McBrief is the ruler, and Reggie is the Catholic nun.
The Keek.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep.
I don't know if I really go with that.
I don't want to keep going with this
You
analogy.
put your hands on the desk, and then the ruler like slaps your hand. You know. Like,
Okay,
you know
yeah.
What I'm saying?
As long as we keep the Catholicism analogy should stop right there. And not,
You guys know that's
Of
like
course,
the punishment.
absolutely.
In the, like,
Excellent, yeah,
traditional-
totally.
Absolutely.
You gotta put
Yes.
your hands on the
Great,
desk.
yes.
The Catholic nun comes
Yes.
by with the ruler.
Yeah,
and she
no, for
Anyway,
sure.
Can we
So-
just say that, like,
So Keith McBrief.
Yeah, so
they're giving
Keith,
him a Keith McBrief wedgie and shoving him up his ass so he plays better?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I really like imagining
very
Reggie in a
good.
Catholic nun dress. Like, it makes me.
Is that what?
Keith is the Catholic authority figure who's going to put Wild Turtle in his place.
Slap Wild Turtle's wrist.
Oh, through doing that. Okay.
Like the knuckles, actually.
Yeah, right. Excellent. I'm glad we're on the same page here. I think actually we're on the same page. We're on like a few different pages, and it's probably better that way that we're on different pages on this. So
Let's
anyway,
skip his page.
yeah, Keith is coming
it's a
in
great
the team.
analogy, though.
I'm sorry,
Out
Keith,
there.
for the discrepancy here with your name. And
Yeah,
the
this will be
name.
awkward.
You're like-
I hope he doesn't become a I hope he doesn't become a regular player. Just
let's
that
just
I don't
call
have to. I don't have to deal with this.
We'll call him
I hope his
Lesbian.
entire professional career is ruined, so that I don't have to.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
differentiate.
Maybe you
Keith
should just
number
get a,
2.
a cool nickname like Broken Water.
Or just call him McBee every time. Keith McBee. That's just his name now, McBee. Anyway, so Keith McBrief coming on. Not going to play this split, let's just be honest here. And my predictions have been
What?
100% lead pipe
Let's
locks.
just be honest here.
I have had
be fair, Jared is pretty-
cold locks this split so far.
Jared is
You've had some pretty
on
good calls.
point with this split with his predictions.
They have been
Nah,
at
you
every
like
single step.
you and I both liked Gambit.
I didn't like them to win the split. I said that they could be good. I
Yeah.
liked Fnatic and H2K more, and the Unicorns more than Gambit. I liked the number teams better. Anyway, yeah. So
And
we
you
have.
still think Dyrus is good.
Well,
which is a
well,
problem.
he played quite well this week actually. He played very well actually. He looked pretty solid, I would say. He did. Just deal with it. So we have.
So what about the rest of TSM?
Could Wild Turtle improve from this? Is he going to just be the same and get replaced in the offseason? Is this going to be like, how is this going to affect the team?
I kind of think similarly to you, in that it's more of a threat, and that I do think it will be effective because I don't think Wild Turtle he plays the game a lot, but he doesn't really play to improve. We see when he does solo queue streams, and even when he does scrims, sometimes he just does things to try them out to see what happens, And I don't think that's. I mean, he does that in LCS games.
Yeah, but it's
sometimes,
kind of like
where
in LCS. He just
you
does
see him
things.
flash forward into a weird situation, and I like that style because it's the idea of learning the limits of your character. And the idea that, like, I have to know whether or not I can be able to do this. But in an LCS game, it may not be the best route to take. And so I am going to be happy to see him maybe try and rate it in a little bit. But I don't agree with you still on the I don't think he's a good ADC point.
I mean, he may be good enough to play in LCS, but he's not like a top 5 ADC. He's certainly not right now.
Is Keith McBrief a top 5 ADC?
Is Keith
America?
McBrief what TSM needs?
Keith played well for Team Liquid last split.
Yeah, he did. No, I'm serious. Like, when we saw Team Liquid with Keith McBrief play, and I think that they took games off of, and this was in the first half of the split, they took games off of CLG, C9, and TSM, all three of them. And then Piglet, when he was playing, the Team Liquid like managed to do nothing at all. Until later on in the season, we saw them work out, and probably in the long term, it was good the way that Team Liquid handled it. Which, by the way, props to them, because they seem to handle that situation extremely well, and they're seeing the benefits of it now.
It's working out.
Maybe TSM is like trying to say, man, Keith McBrief is a really, really good ruler for slapping the wrist of AD carries that have these big personalities, and you know, maybe they're going to try to employ a similar strategy, which would imply that Keith McBrief will indeed play at least one game this split.
I don't think he's going to play a game, but I do think he's going to be a threat there. I do think what we're seeing is, we talked about before, how TSM has kind of been on autopilot for the most part this split. Yep. They've kind of played the Bjergsen carry style, like let him get his farm and then just go from there and see what happens. Team solo mid, just play your name out. I think we wondered, like, when were they going to do something different? We're seeing it now. We're seeing Dyrus having his role change a little bit. We're seeing Wild Turtle being told, hey, we have a sub on board for you. Like, this is the moment where they say, okay, now we're making a difference to the team. So they're going to affect both the top lane and the bottom lane, try to make them both more effective, and we'll see what happens.
But this week was another week of Bjergsen carry. Like, it was straight up just another week of Bjergsen being the only person
you
carrying.
Want to not have Bjergsen. I mean, Bjergsen's like a top, you know, how many players in the world are at his level in mid?
He's probably top 5.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think you want to de-emphasize his role in the game. You just want other players to step up, you know, around him.
Maybe not top 5. I'm thinking about it. Top 10, around there. I mean, close to there.
He can play with top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, he can play with anybody.
I mean, he went straight up even with Faker and Lane.
I put it at 5.
As his team died around him in flames.
I'd put it at top 5 because I'm an NA fanboy, but if I was being realistic, probably top 10. Yeah.
I don't think it really matters where you put like players international ranks, as long as they can play with that tier of players. That's what's more important.
And he's definitely on the highest.
It's so hard to rank like a mid laner versus a jungler versus a top laner versus an AD carry. Like, how can you say which one is better?
Well, even the different regions, because we barely see them play against each other. You know, we see Bjergsen play against international competition like twice a year.
This week against Team Liquid, okay, they camped the bejesus out of the mid lane. There was 3 people who came middle to gank Bjergsen's lane before 10 minutes. 3 times, 3 people. There was 3 3-man ganks. That's not changing up your playstyle. I mean, that's very much let's put everything on Bjergsen and hope he carries. And like he did. Sure, they went 2-0, but like I didn't see them improve that much this week.
I think we're seeing. I think he did too. I think we're seeing an attempt to improve the top and bottom lane contributions with an eye on the playoffs. And
with 3-man ganks in mid before 10 minutes?
Regardless of that, I think we're seeing an attempt to do that. It's not an overnight thing. They're not going to do, like they started the first 4 weeks of the split without even making any effort to do that at all. Just kind of play straight up Bjergsen carry.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see, I think, more emphasis on top and bottom. And over the course of the split, we'll slowly have it come together. And then towards the playoffs, that's more where you want it all to come together in full.
I will say it's like a good and bad sign for TSM because it's like, Bjergsen is carrying all of their games, which is like a bad sign because you would like some other people to like have bigger contributions, but at the same time, Bjergsen is carrying all of your games. Like he is showing that he is a baller. Like he can play up. Like he's the best person in AA right now.
You have to remember as well that TSM is focused solely on Worlds. Like this is not about like making sure they play a different strategy next week in week 5 or week 6 of the NALCS summer split. This is about playing better at Worlds. That's why Wild Turtle is doing this now. That's why they talk to Dyrus now to look towards Worlds. So we'll see in the playoffs this split what happens, and we'll see what comes going towards Worlds for TSM. So
is Keith McBrief a World?
He is not this year.
80 carry.
Perhaps next year, not this year. I do think Keith could land on his feet somewhere else after this split because he's had two stints I think with Team Liquid now TSM.
Well,
I think
he has just graduated from high school or something. So
he's got a good shot next season.
This is like his first opportunity to before this summer split. Like even last spring split, he was like still in high school, so it was very much difficult for him to like make a real go at being a full-time AD carry.
I see Keith being an LCS starting ADC next season.
Yeah, getting picked up by TSM is never bad for your League of Legends resume.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Bianca, tell me, is Cloud9 going to be relegated?
Oh gosh, well with the current standings, they're tied for 8th place.
With Team 8?
Yeah.
That's a great place to be for Cloud9, tied with Team 8.
Team 8th and Cloud 9th.
Yes, it's a fantastic position for Cloud9. So
they're already right on their way to relegations. Yeah. They're going to have to play these matches if they keep playing the way they do.
I have good news for Cloud9 fans. They play TDK on Saturday. So check that one off the box. You know, that's good to go. Unless you're CLG, then that's a bit of a more difficult game. But for Cloud9, check off the box.
Still a victory.
They're not going to be much safer.
A win is a win.
And then Sunday, a really interesting game for me. They take on a team that has been, I think, a consistent disappointment this whole split and almost fell into an out of the playoffs spot themselves. That's Team Impulse. Sunday we have Cloud9 and Team Impulse. We can talk about the game more in detail on Thursday when we be right back here with more LCS breakdown. But so Cloud9, I'm not feeling super confident or high on them. I don't see enough improvement for them. They're consistently scattered. I still soldier behind Sneaky and Meteos as being great players, but for me it's like, okay, at this point, if you really are both great players, you should be able to carry a bit more of the load for Cloud9 for your team than we're seeing thus far, and we're not seeing it at all, especially from Meteos. It's been really disappointing for me, especially.
I would actually disagree, because I would also read that they're still a very bad team, but I've seen way more improvement than you seem to be letting on by like, oh, I think it's not enough or whatever. They're getting better. Their positioning is getting better, especially at an extraordinary rate, where they last week was a disaster and a half, and this week it looked like they were pretty competent at keeping their team together, which sounds like an easy thing, but like there's so much involved in that I'm actually impressed at what they did, considering that they still really have no idea how to work with Incarnation.
That's a big problem, unfortunately, is having no idea how to work with your new mid laner.
I mean, I think
several weeks deep.
The thing about Cloud9 is like you want to give up on them because they are playing like such garbage, but they have had like actually moments where you think that you're seeing the resemblance of the Cloud9 that we all know.
Cloud9's the new CLG. Where like every time.
No.
Every time
Stop it.
Every time I'm like, okay, C9
is
dead.
This is worse than CLG has ever been.
C9 is dead, and then C9 does something. I'm like, oh, well, that if they could do that all consistently, that would be, they could return to their former. Oh no, C9 is dead.
I don't think we can be that quite high on them at 2-6. I mean, it's mostly just dead at this point.
Yeah, we are 4 out of 9 games through this split.
It hurts.
For 4 out of 9.
8 out of 8.
Well, I think she meant weeks.
Weeks.
Weeks. That's right. Correct. We got you.
All they have to do is get to 7th.
Was weird.
All they have to do is get to 7th.
We got it.
Do you think they can?
Okay,
no,
this is all I'm going to say, though. If Cloud9 showed up and managed to somehow squeak out the 6th seed and show up in the playoffs, I would not want to play them.
Yeah.
I would never, ever want to play Cloud9 in the playoffs.
But I mean, that's like pure conjecture at this point. There's no reason to think that's going to be a thing. Like, there's no reason to think right now.
I would rather play against Gravity than Cloud9 in the playoffs.
Well, that's a pretty easy one, honestly.
I would rather play against...
What playoff team would you want to play less than Gravity, though?
Ouch.
Is there one? I don't think so, actually.
Let's go through all the current playoff teams right now.
That's like...
Impulse? Would you rather play against Impulse?
Than Gravity, yeah. No, really? I mean, I'd rather play Gravity than Impulse.
I'd rather play against Impulse.
Would you?
Yeah, because they're really easy to take advantage of sometimes.
Oh, God.
If
that last game...
Which one's that?
Impact just got the crap camped out of him on Sunday. That was
he had like
hard.
the slowest level 6, I think.
He didn't hit level 6 until after 12 minutes.
I think it was 13 something actually, wasn't
because
it?
they have such an emphasis.
13 is after 12 minutes.
Yes, I mean like more specifically after 13 minutes.
As well.
Like, take it to the even greater
that
extreme.
doesn't make my statement untrue.
Thanks, time.
Every like, level 6 comes after like 2 minutes. Doesn't mean it's like
the
a weird
amount
thing.
of time after 13 minutes is a subset of the amount of time.
Shout
after
out
12
to
minutes.
But more
basic
extreme and
arithmetic.
more notable.
Woo woo.
More worthy of note, I think. So anyway, Impact got camped pretty bad.
Yeah, but they didn't lose.
I feel like
Everything-
because
they're
Team
okay.
Impact is like such.
Team Impact.
Oh my God, I'm
know,
gonna do it
it's
forever.
easy,
You
yeah.
can't stop me. If
too easy.
Because Team Impulse is based so much on the early game and about getting advantages early on and then never letting go of them. They're like really easily affected by momentum, and if you can convince them that they're going to lose, they're going to lose. And we've seen that when they lose, that like they kind of just give up. They don't even try to get back into it. Sometimes they just kind of like dawdle around or do stupid plays and then like give up the Nexus and say like, all right.
I heard an interesting thing from Adrian during the Riot broadcast of the LCS this weekend, where he said that he wanted to be more aggressive, and that was his natural playstyle to be more aggressive, but he had to be constricted by Team Impulse because they already have Rush, they already have
so
Joey
much
Zhao.
aggression.
They have
It's
so much
like-
aggression.
Zhao, yeah.
He has to play back. For me, it's like, fuck it, just go. You know, let the
just
whole
do
let the
it,
whole
man.
5 team like play aggressive. Why not?
I
mean,
want to see a
you're-
team. I want to see a Team Impact that flashes
Impulse.
all 5
Team
flashes
Impulse.
level
Impulse.
1 to
That
get a
does
kill.
something
Impulse.
super
No.
impulsive.
Yeah,
I'm
Team
calling it
Impulse.
Team Impact
Impulse.
now.
The
God damn
impulsive
it.
Team Impulse.
They
Yeah,
do the double lift where everyone flashes over the Baron wall at level 1.
yeah, an excellent strategy. I think that's a fantastic way to go. So yeah, I mean, they're 4 and
Gotta
4.
psych 'em out with your BM.
Why not just play aggressive across the board? Why not just go for it, honestly, at this point? I mean, they have skilled players. I say do it. I don't know why you would hold back, especially if their players are more natural in like an aggressive role. Just let them go ham. See what happens. You're not playing great this way, that's for sure.
Yep. Speaking of Gravity, I think it is something worth noting to talk about. Gravity played TSM this week, and also Team Liquid played TSM this week. TSM comes out 2-0. Team Liquid, ironically enough, comes out 0-2 this week after being in first place, tied for first place. So I wanted to bring up something because watching the games against TSM, both teams seem to be in a position where they could win. And both teams seem to sort of crumble at the end. And it made me think of something from the fighting game scene, something that I'm sure that Keith and Jared are both familiar with. And if either of you wants to tell the wonderful viewers at home what the Justin Wong factor is.
Are you giving TSM the Justin Wong factor?
Well, I don't know. Maybe, there's probably a lot of people out there who are not familiar with fighting games. They don't know who Justin Wong is.
The idea behind the Wong factor is that the player, Justin Wong, when he has no health left, his playmaking ability increases by 1,000%.
Well, it's not only that. Okay, so Justin Wong plays good in the
It's
clutch.
like his opponent can't handle beating Justin Wong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're afraid to win.
It's more about that, where it's like when Justin Wong is like very well, like definitely the biggest player in American fighting games. Maybe not like the best all the time, but like definitely the most well known. Right? He is the TSM of FGC. Okay, and when the other team is playing against, or when the other player is playing against Justin Wong, and they're in a situation where they can win the game, they fall apart. For you can't explain it. The only thing is, it's just the Justin Wong factor. But playing against Justin Wong just is in your head, and I think we saw that twice this week because Team Liquid had an opportunity to win, and there was a failed Rumble ult. Okay, he put the Rumble ult into a wall. I went back and I watched it. You guys can go watch it at home. He throws the Rumble ult into the red buff wall, and instead of putting it in the corridor, and then in the Gravity game, there was a teleport where Rumble throws an ult on top of himself. He could have thrown it on the other team. In both situations, a good Rumble ult wins the game. But the top laners, collapsed under the pressure. I think TSM has the Justin Wong factor.
I would be hesitant to chalk that up to Team Liquid being afraid of beating TSM.
Really?
And more up to general misplays and pressure.
Speaking of misplays, the Team Impulse enemy game was great for that. I think the first gank attempt by enemy had like 5 missed skill shots, and Thresh actually threw out his hook in the wrong direction. In fact,
was terrible.
Like towards his own river. It was a fantastic little sequence. They still went 1 for 1. because Team Impulse couldn't even capitalize on like 5 missed skill shots in one skirmish.
That's the kind of thing that you're going to see in YouTube like compilations for a long time.
As you should. That's fantastic
Enemy
to watch. Enemy could not. Yeah, I mean, Enemy probably should have beaten Team Impulse and taken the playoff spot, or I think it tied with them actually, and they had some terrible skill shots. I guess some terrible skill showings, really.
That game was rough.
It was not well played.
It was rough.
Yeah.
It was not a pretty game.
Steven, I hate to remind you about this again, but I remind you every week, actually. Team Impulse, they were your pick for the split.
Better than Cloud9.
Yeah, they are better than Cloud9 by a factor of 2, actually.
They're Dig.
Twice as good. You were Dig, yeah. We're looking pretty good over here. This side of the room is looking pretty good right now in terms of predictions with Dignitas and Team Solo Mid. Over here we have
this is the trash couch.
Yeah, it's Cloud9 and Team Impulse.
It's so boring to pick TSM, though. That's such a boring
Is Cloud9 an interesting pick?
Yes. Because
Cloud9's more interesting than TSM.
What?
Team Impulse is they were a great team. They were fantastic until the split when you pick them, and now they're terrible.
Cloud9 is typically such a solid pick.
Yeah, but I've changed allegiance.
You're not a special snowflake.
Back to counter logic gaming.
You can't do that. Anyway, so Enemy, like Team Impulse, I think it says something about Team Impulse actually that Enemy fucked up so badly and still played a really close, scrappy game with them. I don't like the way Tip looks. I don't like it. I don't like it. Steven, counter argument.
I think the thing about TIP though, it's like they've always played this super chaotic, kind of ugly playstyle. I mean,
Impulsive.
Their games have never been pretty to look at.
It doesn't look this ugly normally.
You can play a playstyle well, and you can play a playstyle poorly, and I think Impact plays a rough, scrappy playstyle, but I think they do so.
Please.
No. I think Team Impulse plays that style, but not quite as well as they could. You can't really use
I mean, if they played
chaotic.
It as well as they could, they
lose because they're chaotic.
No
you
losses.
Can't really
well,
say that.
So how do you think they could improve?
I think they could improve by either going full ham and seeing what happens, because it would be interesting at least.
Yeah, well, Paul and Adrian just go.
Yeah,
unleash the bottom lane Kraken.
I would also want to see more of an emphasis on
bot crack.
I would also want to see more emphasis on bot lane, because like Apollo and Adrian, they don't do a lot, and if the junglers are willing, like not just, it sounds weird, but not just Team Impulse's junglers, but also the other team's junglers, like they kind of ignore bot lane when.
Because Team Impulse ignores bot lane.
Yeah, Team Impulse like has a black void where bot lane should be, and I want to see them treat it as an extension of their team that can do things.
Adrian complains about not being able to be aggressive as he wants to be. We've seen him have some great games to split. We've seen him carry from the support position. If you let him just go ham, I think it could be great for the team. I mean, again, at 4-4, looking very shaky and sometimes shitty, why not let the player play his natural way that got him to this point? Why not?
Because you're endangering your playoff spot.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not only that, but
Rush and Impact are endangering their playoff spot by playing like shit.
The mind game here is: do you think there's a team? Do you think there's a team below Team Impulse that's going to get better enough that they could endanger Team Impulse?
Yeah, not Cloud9.
Really? Because I was gonna say it could be Cloud9.
If it's gonna be anyone, it's gonna be Cloud9.
Cloud9 could do a lot of things,
but that's the thing, is they could still. You can't say 0%.
Yeah,
they could.
That's the problem.
0% for
is it a high enough percentage that you should change up your playstyle?
No, seriously though, that's the problem with TIP though, because of the way that the system is set up now. It's not only just the playoff system, but it's their chance at Worlds in general. Because of the way that the circuit system is worked out, if you don't qualify for playoffs, then you don't get any points towards Worlds. And since they finished pretty well last split, I mean, they got 4th, so they have some points from last split. If they get some points from this split, they're going to put themselves in a situation to where they can play in that last chance qualifier. So it's like, if they don't qualify for playoffs, then they're not going to be in that last chance qualifier. So we're talking about TSM. We're saying they need to look towards Worlds. They need to make some serious changes now. Like, they have the luxury of being able to, hey, if we play crappy and then we don't really do that well, and then we can't put it in, all together until the end of the split, they're gonna have a pretty good shot at making it to Worlds anyways.
Yeah, but Tip is a few missed skill shots away by Enemy from being out of the playoffs right now. So I don't think switching something up, like having your bot lane go more aggro a little bit, is really a big negative. I think for me it's a positive.
Will Enemy get better enough to land those skill shots?
I think they could. I mean, they can land those skill shots. I feel pretty confident saying that their players, like Body Drop, can land Thresh's skill shots. It's just a matter of doing it on the big stage.
Yep.
That's a matter of experience and time. This is like a rookie team, so I think Enemy could do better than that. I mean, they were that close to beating Team Impulse just by hitting some skill shots better at certain points, key points of the game. I think they could have taken the advantage there. So I think TIP needs a change. I think they need it to make the Worlds, to have a shot at Worlds at all.
Yeah. I agree. I think.
I mean, what's there to not agree about? I think Team Impact could be better. Like,
how about Team Impulse?
Do you think Impulse could be good?
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah. You guys.
You guys.
Everyone's saying it.
Shit, homie. No, but like, I agree with you. I like to see Team Impulse make some big changes, but I'm just saying, speaking as to why we're maybe seeing them be so complacent, it could be because they are trying to hold on to that last playoff spot, trying to get those points so that they can get into Worlds.
And maybe they figure, we're in a slump right now, we might get better. Like, I believe that you guys are better than this. And, like, there's a lot of reasons to just say, right now, we should stick with the status quo and try to slide into playoffs.
Put that confidence in Apollo and Adrian. Tell them that they're better than this, and let them play. Let them play from the bottom lane. Bianca, which NALCS team have we not talked about so much today? Dig. And is that, like, are they somehow relevant? Are they doing, like, what's the record?
They're so relevant. They're tied with TSM right now.
Right, number 2 in the split. Not a prediction many people had. Of course, Bianca had that. She's just showing us up. Like, with expertise, obviously, this is where it is.
Definitely.
I got you.
She had the foresight to see that Dignitas.
Bianca the Prophet.
Yeah. Who is driving that dig train, by the way?
Don't ask me that
Who's in front of that dig train? Go ahead. Let us know.
Right now, to be honest, I'd have to say Gamsu. He was an absolute monster this weekend.
He was pretty scary.
I think Helios is the conductor. Like,
you think so?
I think Gamsu is like a really good coal engine that Helios shovels into the front of the train and plays come out.
I was gonna say that was Alan. Kiwi Kid. Kiwi Kid was shoveling the coals into the fire.
Kiwi Kid shovels all the coals into Gamsu? Is that how it works?
Gamsu like lays the tracks down, and then Helios like drives the train.
So really, what about this team has made them so much better than what most people gave them credit for?
Okay, I think I do have to agree with Keith and say that the addition of Helios has made a giant impact on their team. I think they're playing aggressively. I think he's a better jungler in general.
Has it made a big impact or a big impulse on their team?
Yeah, that's the same thing actually.
So
he's a better jungler than Azingi. That's congratulations to Helios for that accomplishment. That's a big mountain to climb right there. Azingi had a great Zac this split. He did.
I feel like Azingi goes out on he rides off of the horse in the sunset and just he played his game of Zac and
that's it.
Dignitas did good, and he's
may as well finish strong.
Yeah. My job here is done.
Puts on his 10-gallon hat.
Go out on top, exactly. When you have the good Zac game against Meteos, no less. Against the Zac main.
The last impression we will ever have of Azingi is his wonderful Zac play.
Outplaying Meteos on his champion. That's the last Azingi impression.
It's a good note to go out.
Azingi's the best jungler in the world right now.
Yeah.
He takes the belt with him.
As far as we know.
He's just taking off with the belt.
Exactly. So can Dig maintain this form to the end of the split and actually challenge in the playoffs?
Yeah, because we heard them talk about it. It was 4 out of out of all 6 splits, Dignitas has had at this point only 1 or 2 losses, which I thought was very interesting because I remember that they had done well at the beginning of splits, but this actually is closer to the norm for Dignitas than the opposite. So in my head, Dignitas has always sort of just been a middle of the pack team, and lately a lower than middle of the pack team. But actually, it turns out that more often than not, they're at the top of the split at this point in time, which means that usually at this time we're looking at CLG and Dignitas at the top, and then TSM doing a little bit worse, but then they pick up steam at the end of the split, along with Cloud9 and maybe Impulse and Team Liquid, and then I start to get sad because that's exactly how this split is looking. It's looking like every other split.
No, Dig is going to do great. Half the team is Korean.
I mean, I'm worried at this point just because of a tradition, if nothing else. I mean, we saw that kept Curse down, even though there was no logical reason to.
I think it took Dig a whole split to get over the QEPI loss. That's what happened. They really had to work through that. It was a struggle.
So you think they're back? They're in it for good this time?
Yeah, I think they're good to go for the playoffs at least. I think I see them as a top 4 seed from the split, and then once you get in the playoffs there, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not sure I would favor them against like a Team Impulse in this playoff. That's actually an interesting playoff series. Is Team Impulse and Dignitas.
And that's what I think
Team Impulse?
It's going to come.
They might have in best of one.
It's going to come down to they're going to have to beat a team that I think it's going to end up that they're going to have to beat someone who has like a bigger name than them.
On paper, a better team, for example, like a team that seems better coming into the season.
Yeah. Something like Impulse or Cloud9, I think those are going to be, or maybe even Team Liquid, those are going to be the teams that they end up getting matched up with in the first round of the playoffs. And if we're going to have to see, has Dignitas really come to be something that a team that demands respect, that can produce results, a team that could go to Worlds?
I mean, they need a good run to go to Worlds. They need to like finish strong because they missed the playoffs entirely last split.
I mean, they're gonna have to qualify, either win the split or they're gonna have to play a lot of games in the last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
So
we talked about on Thursday, like if the Team Liquid versus Dignitas game is about, can Dignitas be consistent? Can they prove that they deserve to be on the top teams? And I thought they played a very convincing game, and I don't think there's any reason why they'd fall off. Like, looking at the way Dig is playing with Helios with like these ridiculous shot calls, and with Gamsu like running trains on people, I don't see a reason why they would fall down. But I thought the same way last season with they did really well. Like, way
at the same time, I think Dig finally has a coherent team, and I think that's going to make a lot of a difference, especially compared to last split.
Yeah, I think actually Keith does bring up a good point that like the strengths of them this split are different than what the strengths have been in previous split when they've kind of fallen on their faces. Like previously, we've known them to be like a strong laning phase team, and like they get these leads early on, and they manage to like play really aggressive, and it's like somehow manage to snowball that into a game. But like the weakness of Dignitas has always been their like lack of strong shot calling, and like they've always thrown games at Baron, even when they were like one of the top teams. Like that was always their downside, right? And it's like now the strength of their team has been Helios making these really, really great play calls. And like we saw them when they were able to like close out their last game on Sunday, they were able to like TP in and like be very clever with the way that they finished the game. And like, sure, it was like scrappy and like not pretty, and you know, there was definitely mistakes by both teams, but Dignitas was able to close out that game because they made the smarter, better, you know, shot call, which is like something that translates throughout an entire season. That's something that you would think isn't just going to magically disappear. Whereas being able to outlane your opponent all the time, that's something that can be volatile with different champions or the way that the other teams are playing the game.
Yeah, that was the formula.
Like
that was the formula, right? Is that Kiwi Kid does stupid stuff in lane and gets away with it, and his team gets advantages off of it, and then whatever AD carry, Core JJ, Cutie Pie gets advantages off of that, and then they get fed, also, and then they get blown up in team fights, and then they lose. You know, but now, like, it seems like they've corrected that, and I'm really interested in seeing if this is something that can be permanent, because I would love to see Dignitas as a NA powerhouse.
And I think we need to give some credit to Mr. Kiwi Kid. You know, none of us here are biased for sure, but I think
no one's biased.
I think seriously, he's picked up his play. I mean, do you not think so, Jared?
I think he's looked solid. Yeah. I don't see any problems. Unless he's like doing the flash and then ult stun or the Annie into like the nothing.
We've seen a few of those.
Come
this
on,
split,
someone
though,
was
from like
backing
different
there.
people.
Okay, someone was backing there. Yeah, so that was a thing. So let's pivot now over to
I think he looks great.
We're talking about in the game. Yeah.
I remember a particular game from 2 seasons ago where he played Braum and just sat in a mid bush for 6 minutes and then left, and then everyone was stunned. Like, what is he doing? I don't understand. And I can't imagine that for him this split, because it seems like the whole team has a coherent plan from start to finish.
Plus, Brahm's not really that anymore.
Well, I mean,
yeah, so it's hard to imagine that. Anyway, pivoting to Europe now for a bit. Fnatic are the class of the West, the class of Europe, are the class of perhaps the world. They are undefeated in Europe. They're looking very difficult to beat. My question to you all now is what can Fnatic, because at this point, like, it's about improving for Worlds. There's no other goal for Fnatic.
Yep.
Even winning the European region, like, whatever. You know, it's a feather in the cap, but they don't really care, ultimately. This is about winning Worlds at this point for Fnatic. So what can this team do from here to Worlds to actually improve on their game? What can they work on, if anything, in the EU region? Is there anything they can do?
I think Reckles and Yellowstar need to...
Reckles,
that's his name. He's not Reckless, it's Reckles.
Okay.
Reckles and Yellowstar need to, like, work better on their coordination with the rest of the team sometimes, because it feels like in the times where things get close and things get hairy, they're kind of off doing their own thing, and Reckless falls into his pattern, his sort of pattern of I'll just AFK farm and then wait for late game.
It would make sense because Reckless is the one who just joined the team, of course, this split. So it would make sense for him to be the one who has to kind of adjust in terms of coordinating better with the team.
I feel like he's not exactly the weak link, but he has sort of potential for improved play.
Sure.
He's playing at the level of the other teammates, but his cap's a lot higher in my mind.
Yeah. Steven, you agree with that?
I would actually look to focus the mid lane, actually, which is, it's hard for me to say because at times we've seen, mid lane from Fnatic look really strong. Like we saw them get a double kill Faker in lane at MSI. So it's like sometimes you get that.
The problem with Fabivin is he feels really binary sometimes. Like
yeah.
He plays champions that win or lose in lane and don't rely a whole lot on their team fight capability. And so we see sometimes he just gets he just kind of has to take his hands off and be like, okay, I'll be the guy in the back who throws spells, because he can't really do a whole lot because he's in this weird place where he's just below the people who are world class and he's above most people in Europe.
Yeah.
And so it's like I can win unless I'm up against the Bjergsons and the Fakers and the Pawns, and then I feel like I don't really have a whole lot of activity.
But when we're talking about being able to have success against the best teams in the world, you're going to have to be able to lane against the Fakers, the Bjergsons, the Pawns. So it's like that's where I feel like, and the question is, how do you get better at that right now, right? It's like if you're already better than all of your training partners, how are you going to get any better? And so, and I think that there are some really strong mechanical players in Europe. And so I think that if I were Fnatic, I would definitely make sure to keep your rotations up, do all of that stuff, win EU, be convincing about it. Look at H2K, like they do a very good job like in the drafting phase and like the way that they rotate around the map. Like look towards them, like see what they're doing and like make sure that, because I think Fnatic and H2K are going to be two of the representatives from Europe, so like they should be scrimming a lot together, even though, because like both of them should be looking at Worlds now. Like they shouldn't, I don't think that they should be focusing on Europe. And like they may think, oh, we shouldn't scrim each other because we're like each other's best rivals. But like I think that the two of them should be scrimming together. And Fnatic needs to make sure that they have diverse champion pools and that they have the mechanics and that they have the laning phase necessary, because that's where I think their biggest strength will be at the World Championships. And that's where I think also their biggest weakness could be, in the sense of, if they lose games in the laning phase, they're going to have a really hard time coming back.
I mean, no matter what we say, though, let's be real for a second. Fnatic is disgustingly strong.
Yeah, I mean, they're
pretty good.
Yeah. And so it's like, what are you going to do? It's like, you're already the best, but they need to be looking towards Worlds. And like, there's things like having a diverse champion pool. That's a thing that you can do in any region.
Who do you think has a shallow pool on the team, though?
I'm not saying anyone right now has a shallow pool. I'm just saying like that's always something that you can be working on. And it's like we talk about TSM not getting complacent and like finding a style of play that wins games in their region and then being okay with that, because we saw them get smashed at MSI. It's like Fnatic needs to make sure that they're staying dynamic, that they're not getting complacent, and that they're not going to just play the same champions or they're not going to play the same play style. Like they need to be looking to other regions of the world, see what other people are playing. Like they need to be focused on how do we compare to everyone else in the world, not how do we compare to Europe.
Ideally, all the teams going to Worlds this year or are likely to go to Worlds are already preparing for Worlds. Like we would hope at least they're doing it. Perhaps not TSM, because apparently they couldn't prepare for MSI, even though they knew they were going there. But hopefully they're preparing for Worlds now, because they're probably going to be there as well. Bianca, there's a danger for a team who's unbeaten 4 weeks in with 5 weeks to go and kind of knows they're going to be the best in the region, that they kind of get too comfortable and lose sight of improving every week and week out.
I could definitely see that happening.
I think it might be happening now. Perhaps it could be. Could Fnatic fall? No, they're not going to fall off. They're going to be fine.
Fnatic still looks sharp.
They're going to win. They're going to win the split. They're like 16-2, maybe lose 2 games, like lose to HGK perhaps, or lose to Unicorns probably. Lose to them, That's a good loss to take. Why not? Unicorns just fucks with you.
And SK.
Yeah. And SK Gaming just because.
Hey, SK went like 2-0 this week, right?
They did. Yeah,
Holy
they did.
Shit.
Wow. Wow, nice job, Candy Panda.
I actually won a fantasy week.
That Candy Panda iterated bottom lane is just like, it's too strong.
That is my fantasy league.
There you
bottom
go.
lane.
Well played, because I mean they're going to take them all the way to the
SK is literally the anti-dig.
Bottom of the table.
Like they're awful at the beginning, and then every time, for some reason, they just start winning every game. And it's like, well, do you have any sort of logic behind this? And it's just they're good now.
Speaking of what European teams can improve on, so you mentioned H2K, Steven. They're 7-1. They're certainly the subclass behind Fnatic.
Them and Origin.
They'll be at Worlds. Yeah, Origin are I think 6-2 now. What can H2K improve on to challenge Fnatic in the final if they make the final with them?
Yeah, so I was talking about Fnatic's strength as being, mechanical, laning, very strong individual play. From H2K, we've seen really strong strategic play. H2K is like, I was reading Monte Cristo's AMA, and he was like, yeah, I think H2K could do things at Worlds because they do great picks and bans, and they do wonderful rotations.
It's a great Monty impression.
They do everything that Monte Cristo loves. And it's like, they are very much like a Monte Cristo team, where it's like they play the game with their brains, and they don't require, they don't necessarily rely on their mechanical skill.
No kills. Keep it at
But
0.
The problem is, we've seen Fnatic be able to just like shove their play style down these teams' throats. Like specifically even SKT. Fnatic forced, when Fnatic was successful, Fnatic forced SKT to play Fnatic's game. And like that is something to be said. If you could force SKT to play your style of play, like that is saying something. So for H2K to think that they're going to be able to out-rotate and play their like very pretty, elegant style against Fnatic and like get out of the laning phase like with 0 kills and like out-rotate, like no. To think that is to be ignorant, because Fnatic is going to find a way to make you team fight them. Fnatic is going to find a way to make you play aggressive and make you 2v2 in lanes and 1v1. And it's like, if H2K wants a chance, they're going to have to say, okay, Fnatic, like we can stick around and we can play the laning phase with you. And like we can do team fights with you and we can play scrappy if we need to. Like they need to be able to be more flexible and not only rely on their rotations, because I think that we've seen the end of the age where rotations just straight up win games. Because I think everyone has such a good knowledge of the way that the game is now that like you're not going to be able to just simply out-rotate people to victory all the time.
Yeah, it could be. Keith,
it's all about auto-spacing.
Where do you see H2K potentially being able to take advantage in lane against Fnatic, or if anywhere?
Hjarnan and Kasing, I think, have a decent chance against... I keep like bagging on Reckless just because he's new to the team and they have a few synergy problems with him. And so it seems unfair because it is something that could be easily fixed before playoffs. Yeah. But I think that Reckless and Yellowstar could be like taken an upset by Hjarnan and Kasing. And I also feel like, in general, if H2K, like you say stuff like, oh, Fnatic's going to find a way to make you fight them. But there's a way H2K could just completely go like total rat Dota and just do nothing but objectives, nothing but, oh, there's, let's ward well enough that there's not a whole lot of ways to force fights around dragons and fights around towers. But if they do that, then they could very easily win.
Yeah. So they could easily win, but they could have a shot at winning.
Well,
I just feel like
if H2K can keep it their game, there's not a whole lot Fnatic
for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and that's going to have to be where... they're not going to be able to beat Fnatic in a 5-game series if they play Fnatic style in all 5 games. But I definitely think if you play Fnatic style for 5 games, then you're going to lose against Fnatic. But you're going to have to find a way to not just lose games straight up if Fnatic puts pressure on you in lanes. Because we know that Fnatic is going to be very strong in the laning phase. So it's like, I think H2K is going to have to step up their game and be like, okay, yeah, we can out-rotate the teams that are worse than us, but like we can also put pressure on lanes. Like we can play more aggressive if we need to. Because I think, I don't know, maybe I'm being a Fnatic fanboy right now, but like the way that they played against SKT, it was like, you're not going to be able to just be smarter than us and control the side waves better than us.
I mean, I don't feel like you're being a fanboy. I kind of agree with you when I say like it's true that Fnatic is really, really good at that.
And they're looking very strong overall, I would say. Now, let's close with a couple of hammer questions here, some lightning questions, quick answers from you two. Yeah. Which team outside of Fnatic and H2K is most likely to win the European split? Outside those two teams.
Unicorns of Love.
Strong take.
Origin's the easy answer, but I think that if SK does something absolutely ridiculous.
SK? Really?
Again, it's
really?
always
SK?
they sandbag the first half of the split every time, and if
yeah, but they never ever won a split.
It's true.
That's consistent though, because that's the same record SK has as Cloud9. So Keith's just kind of unifying his picks right now.
Yeah, like right now, I'm a big fan of teams.
Go with the 2 and 6 teams.
2 and 6.
Yeah, go with the 2 and 6.
Like
teams.
PSA competitive league teams. If you suck until playoffs, I love you. Like that's you're my favorite team.
Okay, and Bianca, a bigger threat to make worlds and make a run, Dignitas or Cloud9?
You give me the easy question.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and give the easy answer then.
Dig for sure.
Dig for sure. Okay.
For sure.
You heard it here first. Dignitas for sure. World champions 2015 and 16. They're going to repeat actually.
Every
back,
year.
back to back. Yeah, Dignitas from here on out. They had to get rid of Cutie Pie, you know?
Dynasty.
Now it's all good to go. Cutie Pie's gone. They're going to ready to win worlds. You heard it here first. Or maybe you heard it somewhere else, but you heard it here most authoritatively.
Oh, I just want to point out before we close, I predicted Monte Cristo to, now Renegades last week. Just saying.
We joked about that actually, so it was a thing.
Still waiting for the high
all the
support.
predictions, all the accurate predictions, of course. Cloud9 being relegated potentially, and missing the playoffs. You know, Wild Turtle being in trouble. Good predictions here on the loadout. If you like the channel, follow it. Follow it. Hit the follow button. Somewhere over here, most likely. Stick with us tomorrow with Ian and Sam joining me, and on Thursday, this crew will be back, as will Richard Lewis, for another full loadout of the loadout. Thanks again for joining us, and so long.